We're Mustanging.
We're Mustanging.
Are you so excited, Ellen?
We're Mustanging. Yeehaw.
We're putting on our crash helmets.
I'm trying to be better about vlogging and being interesting, so there's Elisa also vlogging. What's up, little buddy? Hi, Momo. How's it going? Good morning. Oh, that's pretty good. Oh, Snorties. Hi, buddy. Got worried ears. Let's see if I can hold. Yeah. Oh, that was brave. You want to touch the phone again? He's so smart. You see? I don't know how Lisa films with these. Good boy. So this is day 3 with Momo, and today I ended up working on some touching with him, a little bit of leading, and then I tried to start laying the groundwork for haltering for the eventual goal of being able to take off that lead rope and take off his halter. You can see he's definitely a little bit more accepting of the hand now. And now I'm going in with the stick. It just lets me touch him a little bit further back. I touch down his legs. I always like to do the legs with the stick first rather than use my hand, so that if they do react, it's not my face that's super close to them. And I love Momo. He's so cute. He's getting so curious. When I go to give him a break, he's started to come up and sniff me and see what I'm doing. And here I'm going to start working on leading just a little bit. I'm just putting some gentle pressure on the lead rope and on his halter, and I'm not pulling that hard, and all I'm looking for is just that one little step forward. And you can see as soon as he steps forward, I let the pressure go slack, and then I'll put some more pressure on the halter and wait for him to take another little step forward. And see, he goes back, and I keep the pressure even until he goes forward, and then immediately release all of the pressure. And he's pretty clever, so he picks it up pretty fast. And with the drag line, they also are figuring out how to get off pressure when they step on the lead rope when it's on the ground. And this is a little bit later on in the session. You can see he's picked up moving a step or two off the halter pressure pretty easily. And he's so cute. I love how he keeps sniffing me to see what I'm up to. And here's where I'm going to start laying the groundwork for haltering. So you can see, or maybe you can't see, I'm kind of in the way. I have the lead rope in a loop in my hand, and I'm just starting to touch his head and the front of his neck with that loop. And eventually I'll put that loop over his nose, and it'll be the start of haltering. But first I have to get him used to the loop of the rope touching his head and touching his neck. And he, due to the Banamine we had to give him on the first day, is a little protective of his nose and his mouth, which is understandable. So I'm just going slow and being patient and a little bit persistent. And he's a little happier with it on his neck versus his face, but he's still doing his best to figure it out. So I was pretty pleased with where I left him on day 3, and now it's day 4, and I'm going to do a little bit more work on haltering. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put the lead rope in a loop, and today I'm going to work with the loop touching his nose and getting put over his nose. So it's kind of a dual challenge that they have to get used to. Not only does he have to get used to the rope going over his nose, but he also has to get used to both of my hands being by his face, not just one. And there I'm practicing with 2 hands up by the knot of the halter, so I can practice moving that knot around again to get him ready for haltering and unhaltering. And now I'm doing a little bit of work on the right side of his body, making sure I don't spend all of my time on the left. And you can see he's letting me touch him on the right side of his body, but his body language is a little bit more tense than it was when I was on the left, and it's just because I've done a little bit more work on the left side of the horse, because that's, you know, the side that we're all used to working on, so it tends to be the one I'm a little more comfortable with, and the side that I spend a little bit more time on at the beginning. But we do want to make sure we get them comfortable with us on both sides. And now I'm practicing again with that lead rope, just rubbing it up and down his neck and getting him used to the sensation of the rope on his neck and the visuals of my arm being up in his eyesight around his eyeball. And there you can see the rope touch his ear, which he is not very sure about. He is giving me a little bit of a suspicious ear. But that was a pretty good place for me to end it on day 4. And now we're on day 5, and Momo is going to get his first haircut. So now not only does Momo have to deal with me on the right side of his body and his right eyeball, he has to deal with something in my hand and some unfamiliar sensations on his mane and his neck. And you can see he's being quite a good boy, but his facial expression is very clear that he is not the most comfortable with what's happening. So I'm going to try to go slow and just take my time and keep him comfortable with what I'm doing. You can see when I go to pet him, his ears and his facial expression get a little softer. I love cutting their mane. It always makes them look a little bit closer to a domestic horse, makes them look a little bit less scruffy. It's just so satisfying to start neatening them up and getting them looking like domestic horses. I'll put the mane cutting on a little bit of a fast forward, and he's actually really good because not only am I on the right side, he has the rope kind of high up in his eyeball, and he's letting me use both hands to cut his mane. I'd also like to take a second to complain about iMovie's fast forward abilities. I would have loved to put that fast forward on like 10x, but alas, iMovies only lets me go up to 2x. So he had some pretty big knots in his mane, so I elected to do some scissor work before I brushed it. So now I'm going to brush it out so I can see what it looks like and then go back in and even it up. And he's really good about the brush. He's also quite itchy up in the crest of his mane. I don't know if he'll do it in this session, but he's super itchy there and he really loves when I scratch it. So the mane brush being up in his mane probably felt really good for him. You can see here he's really enjoying his scratchies. It makes me so happy when I find an itchy spot because it's such a good way to connect together. It really opens up a lot of trust, and it's one of the first times when they start to feel like you can actually make them feel good instead of being just a somewhat stressful presence. So I scratch him for a little bit longer and then I go back in with the scissors to even up the mane. And you can see after the scratching session, even though his ear is still on me and he's very aware of what I'm doing, his headset is so much lower and his face is so much more relaxed now, which I love to see progress throughout the session. And he's blinking and he's still holding some tension in his mouth, but he's definitely way more comfortable with what I'm doing now than the way he was at the beginning, which wasn't bad. He was still accepting, but now you can see he's a little bit more trusting. So getting his mane done was my main goal for day 5. So that's pretty much all that we did today. And now you can see the reveal. And stay tuned for Momo's next adventures.